Only some business presentations with us, so we'll get to them a little bit later on. To start our meeting tonight, we have a consent agenda for May 11th, the board meeting minutes, for April 2016 financial statements, and April 2016 warrants. Does the board have any other questions or modifications they'd like to make? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Mary Bonner make approval to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Bradshaw the second. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We have a presentation of our annual audit, our financial statements from Clyde Bailey, Mr. Paul Skeen. We liked the scene last night and the scene tonight.
Yeah, so I've got to change my jokes, right? I can't use the
Now
same
you changed your
material.
suit though, Lee.
I did change the suit.
Go ahead and use the same ones. You made it this time.
So he'll go over an audit for 2015, and so ton of time for Mr. Paul.
Okay, well, while Bart's passing the financial statements out, I'll just give you kind of a high-level overview of the audit process and what we went through. This is our third year as the auditors, and I want to start by commending Bart for the progress that's been made. The first year we won't even talk about. The second year required a lot of joint effort in getting things closed, and this year we were able to act truly in the role as auditors because of Bart's efforts to get things closed out, cleaned up, and reconciled. And so I hope that you each take the opportunity to thank Bart for his work, because that makes not only our job as auditors easier, but it allows us to be auditors and really perform the services that we're being paid for and give that real, even though Bart may not like the pain we cause him for a couple weeks, it really is a benefit to the entire organization for us to really be able to do a thorough audit. So appreciate Bart, his effort, and all the hard work that he's doing in the middle of a system change.
Well, you just
So-
verify what we already know, how great a job Bart does. I mean, it just
Well, I just
confirms
wanted to be on camera
Yeah.
saying that.
Thank you.
So I do. I appreciate him. He's great to work with. He understands the organization and the reporting requirements very well. So it really is a great opportunity to work with someone that knows what they're doing. So thank you for hiring him and keeping him on board. So, the financial statements you have in front of you are management's financial statements. Now, we get involved and we help, and we're a party to helping create this docket, but the first couple pages there are our audit report. And won't go through that line by line, but the Reader's Digest version of that is that we are offering a clean opinion, that there's no deviation from a standard report. So that means that in performing our audit, we did enough work to say that the financial statements are stated correctly and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in all material respects. So that's what you want. As far as the numbers, the next section is the management's discussion and analysis. That's really Bart's overview of what's gone on and some analysis. That's a great, if you want a quick grasp of what's gone on financially in the organization, that's the best place to look. I'm not going to go through the numbers other than to say that you are in a good financial position. Typically, if I start to dig into numbers, people's eyes get a little glossy and they start to think about what's for dinner. But I will say that from a financial perspective, the organization is being run as it should be. You're conservative in your approach. You're not charging exorbitant rates. You're running a tight ship, and I think all of your users should appreciate that. One of the big changes, now this is where at least 3 people in the room will hear this for the second, or 4 people in the room now will hear this for the second time in 2 nights, so we'll see how exciting that is the standard to record on the financial statements an entity's portion of the net pension liability is new this year. If you turn to page 29, that illustrates the magnitude of that adjustment for the company. One thing to be aware of is that Heber Light and Power's obligation to the Utah retirement systems and eventually to the retirees has not changed at all. You don't owe anyone any money today that you didn't before. It's just it hasn't been required to be reported in the financial statements. The background on that is there are a lot of municipalities and entities throughout the country that are bankrupt and the financials just don't show it because they have obligations to retirees that they won't be able to meet. We're lucky in Utah. The Utah retirement system is one of the best run systems in the country. They have a very responsible approach to funding retirement obligations, and the investments that they make they're not doing crazy things that cause big swings. So it's a very well-run organization. All of that is to say, that was to buy you some time to get to page 29, I guess. So this required us to put a liability on as of essentially December 31st of last year, of 14. That amount was $1.7 million. Now that sounds pretty daunting if you think we've got to write a $1.7 million check. That's not what happens. This will be funded through normal contributions and participations in the retirement system. So you don't need to, from a cash flow standpoint, from a resources standpoint, absolutely nothing changes. You continue to participate at the statutory rates that the plan dictates, and that'll be funded and taken care of. So the other thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is
What's that second line, that deferred outflows of resources related to contributions, the $520,000?
Great question. So there's a timing difference between when the Utah retirement system measures your liability and when it's recorded. So there's a year lag. That's meant to capture 1 year worth of contributions to the system, essentially. So there's just a funny little accounting timing difference that makes a difference in the first year, and then after that it'll just be kind of smoothed, and there won't be great swings in that unless there's a huge change in demographic of the employee base. Yep, that's a great question.
Okay.
Starting on page 17, I think, there's a whole bunch of information that I'm sure the actuaries think that they've won the lottery by being able to put this together. There's a ton of information about mortality rates and years of expected service. There's some specific minutia, if you will, about the two plans that Heber Light and Power participates in. And then it breaks it down several ways. The thing that I like to draw your attention to is on page 20, there's a rather detailed breakdown of how they come up with the assumed investment rate of return of 7.5%. Now keep in mind that 2.75% of that is related to inflation. So it's not a true rate of return, but that's the rate they use has to incorporate inflation, since we're looking out to projected, I hate to say mortality rates, that just seems morbid even for an accountant. So, but we have to take all of that into consideration. The part I want to bring your attention to is the middle of that page. There's a proportionate share that shows what occurs if there's a 1% decrease in that rate of return. Your liability at December 31st goes from 1.3 million to 3.3 million. Now, if there's a 1% increase in that rate of return, you go from having a $1.3 million liability to a $240,000 asset. Now, the look-back period that they use to calculate this is over 20 years. So I wouldn't anticipate there being huge fluctuations in what they've assumed here. But I think it's worthwhile to note that if something crazy happened with the market, long-term, not short-term swings aren't going to affect it, but long-term, that amount could change significantly. So those are the things that I wanted to talk about, and I would be absolutely thrilled to answer any questions that you have for me.
Anybody from the board have any questions or thoughts about the audit? We got two CPAs on our side there, and you put it over there. Want to show your
Really had a
professionalism and
chance
go
to-
after this?
They need to get their red pencil out before they could really make some.
I can see their mind, the calculations are going like this already.
No, and Bart and Jason both have my contact information, many of you do, and I'm welcome to, if the board has questions, things that come up, I'm happy to address those anytime through the year.
We have an audit committee with the company, and they're part of it, and they probably have a pretty good feel of what's going on with it as board members, part of the audit committee, and that's been a time consuming for them, but it's been great for the company too, and for the board
It's
to
a
have
great
them, to
best
get them
practice, for sure.
involved with it.
We did discuss it at audit committee, and I'm confident that it's a good product. I think we're right on the mark, and there's always ups and downs as we go through these things, but it's the bottom line, the end of the project that makes the difference, and I'm personally fine with what's been presented.
If there's no further question, I look for a motion from the board if you'd like to approve the financial audit for 2015.
I'll make the motion to accept the financial report as provided to us from Hyde Bailey,
A motion by
2015.
Jeff Bradshaw to approve,
I'll second.
second by Jeff Smith. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and passes the audit. Thank you for
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good to
Paul.
see you again.
Thanks, Bob.
For the board, we also have our dividends for the first quarter of 2016, for resolution 2016-05. Does any of the board members have any thoughts or questions? If not, look for motion to what the board would like to do.
I'll make a motion that we accept the first quarter distribution to members.
A motion by Mayor Qualis to accept the 2016 first quarter distribution for our members, which would be Heber, Midway, and Charleston.
I'll second that.
Second by Mayor Bonner. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your city coffers will get filled up. Bart's getting ready to write the checks, aren't you?
We wrote it a month and a half ago.
Oh, you've been holding on.
Next month you'll have another one.
Oh, that would be great, thank you. We have a presentation for the board tonight on natural gas energy resources. I'll let the gentleman in charge of that with their name, share your name of your company and each individual, and
Sure.
we'll listen to
And,
what you've got going for
Would
us.
you like me to present?
Come be up here if you would, please, that'd be,
That'd be helpful.
we've got a camera going here.
Okay.
It airs at 8 o'clock tonight, 8 p.m.
Can I plug in here?
That HDMI.
Yeah, that HDMI works.
Okay.
We can bring it up here too if you want to run it.
Okay.
It's just up to you.
Yeah, if it works, I'll just plug it in and then show you it. Oh, it's coming up still.
Not too dark for later.
Perfect.
Too much?
That's just fine.
There you go, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's better.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. My name's Kurt Salou. I'm the CEO of BioEnergy Energy Systems. We're out of Houston. We do fuel trading. We have positions along the Magellan Pipeline where we transload, we blend ethanol. and I'm running the division that does power generation. We recently, last year, did a project with Northwestern Energy where we put in, I would say, a thoughtful renewable system that deferred some transmission distribution for 'em. We largely work in blending thermal resources with renewables to bring up the penetration of renewables. We're working in parts of Latin America, we have some projects in Africa, and we do work in North America. Mike Smith is here. Mike's, some of you may know him, he's the president, I think you call yourself the president, not the CEO, of Smith Power, just across the way here. And David Gall is also with Smith Power. And we've come together to put together a proposal to do a tolling arrangement where we could put in a very efficient reciprocating gas engine, which is Smith Power's expertise. And we could do a 10-year, 60,000-hour tolling arrangement with you to provide, I would say, clean and reliable power at a very good rate. On a long-term, call it sort of power purchase type of arrangement. We call it tolling. And we've been going through a little bit of this with Jason and Emily. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mike?
Sure. I'm Michael Smith, Smith Power Products here in Salt Lake. We're a service organization. We represent GE and Bacher, which is a gas reciprocating engine from General Motors. We represent that in a majority of the western states, with the exception of Oregon and California, and we also represent it for the country of Mexico. We're servicing engines all the way from the Yucatan to Seattle area, I guess, David, and we're a service organization, and that's what we staked our claim over. I've been here since 1979. We also represent MTU, Detroit Diesel, Allison. We're involved in mining and oil field exploration and power generation and all kinds of things. But the facts of the matter are we're a service organization. So we're very pleased to be here.
And we came together working on a project in Mexico, power generation, cogeneration project, that Mike and I and David got to know each other. And so we started to work together in the United States to partner on building, owning, and operating smaller power plants together. Because Smith Power has the expertise to operate the plants, do all the O&M, and we have the abilities to finance it and to bring renewables and some of our technology to bring up the penetration as you pack them through renewables. So this is a straight gas engine. It's not blending high penetration of renewables like some of our other projects, but it's very applicable to providing capacity at a very low cost. So it's a turnkey system that we propose to build, own, and operate it under a tolling arrangement for 10 years or 60,000 hours, and you would be responsible for the gas supply. We do have a gas group that could hedge it for you and work on it, but I think under SEMA you probably would do an equivalent rate. So we'd be happy to do that as an auxiliary service if required. So see that these are some of the parameters. There's only a few more slides. Turnkey system that we would own and operate with Smith, and we not only have the confidence that we can do it with Smith in terms of the operation, but they have all the service team, close by. They've got a proven track record. They have plants, GE plants up and running in different parts of New Mexico and the United States.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so a lot of experience in doing the service and running these plants. We propose the 16 hours of planned operation per day with you, which would be about a 66% plant capacity factor. These are the megawatt hours that would be delivered. And we also wanted you to have the flexibility, so if you wanted to run it beyond that, you could run it 24/7 out to the 60,000 hours. And we've proposed some pretty remarkable tolling rates that we could offer you guys. This is the design of the plant. So what we've done is made it very modular. Smith Power has an expertise in doing that. I stripped out a lot of the notes and so forth on the plant, but the GE engine goes right in the middle. So it's a very modular, small plant. It's SCADA controlled, meaning it can be dispatched whenever you want. Smith Power, being local, will come and inspect it regularly. They'll do all the lube and oil and service work out to the 60,000 hours, so it's completely turnkey. You can dispatch it when you want. I believe, and we got involved with Smith because the GE Enbacher Series 6 engine is one of the most efficient and, in my opinion, one of the best engines in the world right now. Okay, and I have, I've been in the business of generating power with cogen and blending renewables, and I've just been remarkably impressed with this engine. Okay, it's getting used a lot behind the meter in emerging markets, specifically because it's so efficient and so reliable. This is the plant layout. That's a person, gives you an idea of the size, so very small, we could sit it on your lot. And again, this is completely turnkey, engineering, drawings, permitting, everything, commissioning, turn on, and then you'd be able to dispatch it when you wanted. And this is the single line. And there's a lot more detail, but that's the very brief overview of the project. So if you have any questions, Mike and I can answer them. David Gall has been working with our technical team on all the requirements. But we've got a plan that we can not only service it, but run it and make sure that it's trouble-free for you guys up to 60,000 hours when the first overhaul, the major overhaul comes.
Is that when you renew the contract, the 60,000 then, or the overhaul is just a part of, I mean, that's when the overhaul is necessary?
Yeah, the overhaul's necessary at 60,000 hours, and we could work out options where you could own the asset after that. We could have it overhauled for you, and you could own and operate it after that. We could continue with the tolling agreement where we would cover the overhaul cost. We can build it into the tolling arrangement. But to answer your question, the
It's the
60,000...
end of the contract, basically.
Yeah, it would be the end of the contract when we could renew it. The engine still has inherent value, and Mike can give you just a little detail on what an overhaul takes. It could happen right across the way here because they do that work right here in Salt Lake.
We'd had a chance 2 years back to review, I think, this GE Enbacher, as opposed to, we chose another unit, but it was represented itself really well. I think the output on it was higher than what we got on other options, so that would be a plus.
Yeah. At this elevation, that engine, in terms of its nameplate and output, is, I think, unrivaled. We have a plant in Mexico at a similar elevation, so we have experience on it. I think that engine, in terms of the gas engine reliability and output, is an excellent solution to deliver, I think, some of the cheapest natural gas reciprocating engine power you could have in a portfolio this size.
Mr.
You would-
Wallace, one thing that I'd like to mention is the fact that our company has sold 11 of these GE Enbacher gas engines, the one that Kurt is talking about. We have 5 of them in operation in Mexico. In the next 2 or 3 months, there's going to be another 5 that will come on service, and then we have another one going to be installed in the state of New Mexico.
So let me understand, our obligation is that you would build a little plant for it, provide the generator, that's at your cost?
Yeah, we would do 100% of everything at our cost, build, own, and operate with Smith Power. And we would charge you a monthly tolling charge to have the asset. So we would act as the bank.
But we would pay for our gas.
And
to
you
operate it.
would do your gas. And if Emily wants to work with us on the gas, we're happy to. Emily and I have started a dialogue on us providing gas through Questar with some storage out at Clay Basin. We could transact it, but we don't have we really don't have any work in this area where we're brokering gas like we do in other parts of the United States. So I think with SEMA, you do a better job of handling your own gas.
Something Emily does on a regular basis
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Yeah, so overall, it would be at your discretion. We'd be happy to do it on the side if we could be competitive. If not, you just provide the gas. But to answer your question, it would be a build, own, and operate. We'd finance the plant, and we'd act as the bank and the owner and operator. But you guys would have full, you command the plant, treat it as if it's your asset. But we would be handling all the service, all of the operation, you just be turning it on and off, dispatching it.
We're lucky that the board doesn't need to know everything there is to know about this project, and we've got some great people on staff, so, I mean, I'd like to hear what any of you think, what your thoughts are. I mean, it sounds like a good project, good program, but beyond that,
I'd like to see all the numbers, though, how it punches out, what the actual cost is, and all of that kind of stuff to.
Yeah, Kurt and David met with staff on Thursday, and we kind of went over the numbers. We haven't completed our analysis yet, and we will certainly bring that back to the board. But you know, it is looking very promising as far as you know, where the numbers are right now. You know, how it works in the portfolio, and how we, you know, end up shaping this. You know, we're still talking to BioOrgia about it, but we are close enough that I felt it important that BioOrgia come and get introduced here with the board. So,
Would this supplement or replace some of the diesel generation you have?
we don't have any diesel.
Those, don't you have those?
We have natural gas.
Okay, well, yeah, the
Yeah.
diesel.
And yeah, it's important to note that, I mean, we currently have a certain amount of energy purchased through Morgan Stanley through the end of 2016. And then we have another electricity hedge that starts with Shell at the beginning of 2017. It's about 4 megawatts less than what we're dropping off with the Morgan Stanley contract in 16. And so there is a need within the portfolio of about 16 megawatts, 16 hours a day. You know, those are rough numbers. There's some hours where it's 20, there's some days where it's 20, and there's other days where it's 12. That's why the tolling agreement that's being proposed is kind of gives you that flexibility. It's very hard to buy shape power like that. You know, they like to sell power in blocks of, you know, 16 hours a day is the high load hour block. You get it no matter what. What BioOrgia is here presenting is, you know, some flexibility that doesn't necessarily come with that power purchase block.
We kind of pay for what we use type thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we could put together some numbers and maybe a spreadsheet that shows, you know, how it would work. And
Oh yeah, we're working on it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Wouldn't be any problem as far as space for us to put that.
No, we've kind of looked at it on site and worked with a BioOrgia engineer, as well as David. And, you know, we think that there's, you know, it's amazing. It's not a very big footprint for the 4 megawatts you get. They're really getting these units down to where it's just not that big of a footprint. I think those numbers were like 100 feet by 40 feet or something like that, David.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you actually put it in a box, in a container.
The accessories would be put inside a shipping container, an 40-foot ISO shipping container. Everything would be pre-assembled and pre-tested and pre-packaged in the shop, so that there would be absolute verification of its integrity when it got to the site. The acoustic enclosure where the engine would fit in, it comes in pre-assembled or pardon me, acoustic panels shipped loose that we would be doing the installation of at the site.
It's adjacent to the box.
Yes, exactly, sir, yes.
And we'd be taking all liability on all the operation and maintenance planned and unplanned, scheduled and unscheduled. So there's no liability to it. If anything happens, we've got the service group, and we'd be financing any changes, anything that needed to happen. So it's all built into the tolling arrangement. I'll conclude with this. One of the reasons we're proposing this here is we're starting to do more projects in this region where renewables are getting firmed up with natural gas. As you know, with the volatility in the gas market, solar, large scale, is becoming attractive as long as it can get firmed up. So we'll be working on, most likely, with Northwestern Energy, an 80 megawatt wind farm that they need firmed up called Beethoven, with fast reacting electrochemical storage batteries and reciprocating engines to firm up that wind and make it so that region of their grid is firm. Yeah, so this is a great, I would say, case for us to work directly with Smith, who distributes the GE engine, and actually get some experience. So we've proposed a tolling charge that's very attractive so that we can also learn the ropes, because we haven't worked with Smith before. But I think that after getting to know Mike and David in Mexico, we think it'd be a great opportunity to do this. So we have flexibility, and that's why we propose this tolling. So I want to thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
If you have
coming.
any
and sharing
questions
with us.
after, you can always reach out.
Thanks, Mike. Kurt and David, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, sir.
We have a familiar face over there.
Yeah. I like to ask you questions in this room.
You want to ask us questions first or wait till afterwards? Mr. Scott Reese has a presentation he'd like to share with us on thermal energy resource and opportunity that maybe the company could look into investment.
Okay. Okay, if I'm low tech, so I probably.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for your time.
So, before I get into the I just realized I didn't change, let's see, how many slides do I have? 8 slides. Before I get into the 8 slides, I think I know most of you, but let me give just a little bit of background on who I am and how I ended up with Circ Energy and kind of the project that I've talked to Jason about. I've worked 25 years with Pacific Core, and for good or bad, a lot of times, I got to know Joe, and we're still friends. Right? So.
Since he left the evil empire, we're buddies.
Yeah, so, we're all good. But for the past 8.5 years, I've worked for Circ Energy. Previously, some of you may have heard of Razor Technologies, and Razor had grand plans to change the world with geothermal development, and quite frankly had a flawed strategic plan. Went through restructuring and went from a public company to a private company owned by Tenor Capital, that I'll talk about briefly. But